Bring back rock. Hey, it's Dean and welcome to Bring Back Rock. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Be prepared to be entertained. We're talking to Todd Lane, drummer from bands such as DFM, Haven, AZRO, and New Haven. Todd was a great guy. I want to thank him for doing this. I had a lot of fun talking to him. I hope to do it again sometime. Now, you're getting our whole unedited conversation because AZRO recently released an album called Rockin' a Hard Place, which is also the soundtrack to Bikini Car Wash Company 2. They are having a reunion and CD release party in Little Rock, Arkansas at the Rev Room on October 15th, 2022. And I want to get this out before that so many people can know about it as possible. So once again, I want to thank Todd for doing this. Had a great conversation. You're going to really like the stories he has to tell. And without further ado, Todd Lane. Think we're good. So, once again, thanks for doing it. And you want to talk about how you got into drums to begin with, or?
Sure. My name is Todd Lane. I play drums for Haven, New Haven, AZRO, and DFM. How I got started was I grew up around music because my father ran radio stations here in Cleveland, Ohio, and he would bring home boxes and boxes of records every week. So one of the boxes included a couple of records called Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2. And I immediately just saw those guys and just was like, whoa, what is this? And I was like a kid. This is 1976, 77. And I saw Peter Criss. And, I was just blown away by him. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So, seeing him and listening to the records, and I didn't have a drum set then. Well, we did have a drum set, but I didn't play it yet. But I would beat on the pillows and pots and pans and stuff like that. And basically it was Peter Criss that that lit the match to set me on my career.
Great albums too. I love Alive 2 is awesome.
Absolutely. And they're both just amazing, and just the artwork and just the visual stuff.
Oh, the picture and on Alive 2, Gene Simmons, the blood and all that stuff.
Yes,
and you open up and got the gatefold, and you got Peter Criss on the rising drum.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was basically that, and if you want me to, I'll just tell you. So I just started. I would play to those guys, in my bedroom, and just I'd put on both records back to back and just air drum it, pillow drum it, whatever. And I was, this is 77. And I remember when Kiss came to town on that tour, I was like, Dad, please, can I go? Can I go? Because, he could get me tickets and all that stuff. He was like, I just don't want you there smoking dope. I was like, Dad, I'm not going to smoke dope. I want to see Kiss. And Cheap Trick opened up for them. I remember that vividly. And that was the beginning. And I got into cover bands in junior high, and that's where Haven started in 1981. And we were a cover band. And then we linked up with management later on because we were big here in Cleveland and whatever. And, they were just like, you got to write your own songs. And that's what we did. And things evolved through that process, and we went through members, and then the final lineup, which is the Haven lineup that went out to LA in '84 of September, that was the one. And the minute we got out there, we shot a video, and I'll send it to you. It's called Turn It Up. And we shot it where Quiet Riot shot Mental Health. So
very cool.
Yep.
How'd you get hooked up with Pearl? Because I know you've been endorsed, since '86?
Correct. That story is a great one. We had been in LA for a couple of years, and our beloved manager, Jennifer Monroe, got us an endorsement with Star Case Company, the people that endorse Journey. Because if you look at the old Journey records, you'll see Journey is covered with Star Case Company. Anyways, she got us a deal with them, and they got us into the NAMM show in '86. And I just remember because we were getting ready to go to Europe, and I took the EP that we did and went to the Pearl booth, and I didn't have an appointment or anything, and I just walked up, and there were two nice women working, just doing, just setting meetings and stuff like that. And I just said, look, my name's Todd Lane. I'm getting ready to go to Europe and go on tour. I'm in a band called Haven. I've always wanted to play Pearl. Peter Criss is my favorite drummer. Can I talk to the artist relations guy? And they're like, you're such a cutie. One of them pitched my cheek, not my ass cheek, but my cheek. But I'm sure they wanted to. But and then they said, okay, fill out this questionnaire and we'll let you know. Come back in a couple hours. So I came back and they're like, okay, we talked to the A&R guy. His name was Sam Flores, and he wants to meet you tomorrow. And I said, okay, what time? And they're like, come back here at 1 o'clock. Anyways, I go back. I think it was a Saturday. I came back on a Sunday because we were there all day. I mean, it was just like the Wild West. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But I knew I wanted Pearl. Anyways, I go and I meet Sam and the president of Pearl Drums at the time, Walt Johnson, and they were looking at my questionnaire, asking me questions about what we were doing and all that stuff. And they were like, okay, Todd, why did you want to play Pearl drums? I said, it's on there. I said, Peter Criss. And I said, they're like, all right. They're like, okay, Todd, we believe in you. We're going to take you on. And by the way, meet Peter Criss. And here comes Peter Criss without makeup. Yep. And I was just like, I couldn't breathe. I was like hyperventilating or, I was verklempt. And I just said, oh my goodness. And he was like, hey man, nice to meet you. Welcome to the Pearl family. Let's get a beer. And from that point on, they just knew, they believed in me, and I just love their product, and they've just been great. And to this day, it's just been amazing. It's just been amazing for me.
I mean, that's a long time. That's a long time to be endorsed, I would think, too.
Exactly, and not be like signed to a major label. But when after Haven broke up, I thought I was finished, and then when I got back to LA from Europe, I reached out because all my gear was still in Europe. I needed to play on like a session, and a buddy of mine, who you might know this person, his name is Mark Danzeisen. He played with Gilby Clarke. He was the first drummer in the Bullet Boys. I mean, he's a bad ASS drummer, and he's been a good friend forever. And he was like, Todd, I can't do this project. It's got Vicky Seeger is the singer, and Jennifer Blakeman's the keyboard player, and Eddie Van Halen is producing it. I was like, what?
I'm there, huh?
And yes, and I just remember Eddie Van Halen showing up at the first rehearsal, and I love the band. I thought they were great, but when Eddie Van Halen walked into the room, and I had to borrow my brother's drum set because my drum set wasn't back from Europe yet, and I didn't want to push Pearl, at the time, but it was Eddie frickin' Van Halen. And I was just like, oh my God. And then we went out, we took a break, and he was like, hey, kid, come here. Let's go get some beers. I was like, all right. So we get into his Porsche. He's got open containers in there and everything. I was like, oh, you Gavalt. And he was just the coolest guy. He was like, man, you're a good little drummer. I was like, you're Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Pearl has been like my rock, and I've been endorsed by other companies and I love them and I appreciate them, but Pearl's the stuff. And they just said, you guys, you work hard, you're a good ambassador. And, again, like those days are over, but I still have a lot of fun with them and I love them. I love you, Pearl.
That's awesome. Ahead. That's funny, right? That early on, you already worked with Eddie and met Peter Criss, just like that.
Absolutely. And there's like, there's many more stories through this journey. Man, I've been lucky, but I worked hard.
Well, it takes both, doesn't it?
It does. It actually does.
Yeah.
It actually does, Dean.
So, okay. So we originally kind of talked about the movie Bikini Car Wash Company. You had music with New Haven in that.
Correct.
And how did that happen?
Okay. So basically New Haven from 87 to 91, we were packing shows at the Troubadour, the Whiskey, Gazzari's, the Roxy, all over the place. Okay. And apparently after the run, after 91, when grunge came in and just pulled the rug
Yeah.
out from all these great bands that were out there. And there are a lot of great bands that are on the Strip. And I'm friends with a lot of them to this day. And we'll get into name dropping if you need. But I got a phone call, and they're like, hey, are you the drummer in New Haven? I go, yeah. Hey, we're doing a movie called The Bikini Car Wash Company, and we want to use your songs. Is that okay? Your New Haven songs. And New Haven was done at the time. And I said, sure.
Oh, they're already done it then. Okay.
Right. And they put it in, and it was like, back then, this is like 91, 92, I think. And it was like it did really well on video cassette, if anybody remembers what those are. And it did well. And then I get the phone rings again. They're like, okay, we're doing a sequel because it did so well. But, music's changing, and we want you to put together a little more different kind of band. And I felt bad because I wanted to use all the guys in New Haven to do the soundtrack, but I just knew what the production company was telling me just wouldn't work. So, through friends that I met after New Haven, I put together Steve Giles, who was the last bass player in New Haven, knew the singer Rick Martin, and he knew the guitar player Tracy Swider, and we just put together the songs. We had 10 or 14 days to get 12 songs down because it's a B movie, and so we went into the studio in Mission Hills, California, with a producer engineer Paul Calder, who was a friend, and we cut those 12 tracks on the Bikini Car Wash Company 2 soundtrack, and it was great, but again, time was running out for that type of music. Right. But Tracy's a badass guitar player, and Rick's a great singer. Steve is a wicked bass player, and I just I kept it simple because Tracy was just so good. Anyways, everything turned out great, and it was a lot of fun, and the producers were like, okay, we're going to put you at the end of the movie playing at the car wash with the girls, Dean. So
and they had
probably one of the hardest days of work I had to do in my life, to be quite frank with you.
Really, they were easy on the eyes, and
exactly. Did you see the movie?
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you seen it?
Oh, yeah. I picked them up and watched them both.
That's right.
The band was actually why.
That's right.
The band was why I actually picked up the movies, and they had flawless bodies. It couldn't have been too hard to work.
Yeah, you didn't pick it up for the music. You picked it up for the.
It was like a bonus. It was like great music and hot women.
Guys, right?
How did I miss this?
It was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun, and I'll, probably one of the highlights, because I was like, this is, we're just looking at each other, and my drumsticks are flying everywhere at the end of the movie, everywhere. I was like, and thank God I had my stick bag loaded, no pun intended.
Right.
But yeah, it was great, man. And then after that, I got called again to do another soundtrack.
I was going to talk about
for a movie called Showdown with the band that we put together, DFM, but it had to be heavier and stuff like that because time was rolling on and grunge was in.
DFM was pretty much straight metal, basically, right?
Right, but
from what
I've heard, more groove and melodics. It just was like dig,
right.
Whatever. But I called Tracy, and I was like, Tracy, this is what we need to do. It's got to be heavier. He's like, I know the singer, and and unfortunately, I couldn't get Steve Giles, who played bass on the AZRO stuff. So Adam Shore, the original lead singer of Warrant, who was a good friend at the time, still is, haven't talked to him in a long time, he played bass on it. And after we did that, and the production company loved it, we kicked butt. And they even put Draw the Line from New Haven in that movie, too.
Oh, okay.
So it's all interconnected. So.
Now, did the producers are the people you knew and had a relationship with that kept contacting you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. They just, after the New Haven stuff on the first one, they just trusted me. I mean, they hired me to coach. This is an interesting one, and I'll be quick. They were doing a movie called Boogie Boy, and the star of the, and it was direct to video. The star of the movie was a guy named Mark Dacascos, who's he's on Iron Chef now. Okay. So anyways, Joan Jett was in the movie, and the plot was, this guy just got out of prison, and he's a drummer, and he's trying to, find his way. And they wanted me to coach him to make him look like he could
Okay.
actually play drums. And I just remember going on the set, and we worked together. I was like, look, when you play, you got, this is, look good, whatever. But I just remember when they called me, we went down to the set, and I met Joan Jett, and Tommy Price from
Oh,
Billy Idol's band was the drummer, and she couldn't have been nicer, man. It was a
oh, that's
great
cool.
thing, and he looked good in the movie. These are the kind of little things of my life that I just, I'm just lucky, but I worked hard.
Love Joan Jett too. She's awesome.
She's great, man,
Yeah.
and she's cool as hell.
And the AZRO stuff, you said you kind of just went right in. You had to write it quick and record it quick. It sounds
Yes,
sounds great.
exactly.
The production's
Exactly. Thank
really
you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and AZRO, we are actually, okay, so today's October 3rd. I'm not sure when you're going to air this, but we were doing a one night only show in Little Rock, Arkansas with Rick Martin, the singer, the guy that's on the CD, Steve Giles, the bass player that's on the CD, and the guy that produced it and played and sang all over it. Actually, he's the guy singing the song Bikini because Rick was in the middle of a case of scotch. So Paul Calder is actually going to play guitar, and we're playing on the 15th at the Revolution Room in Little Rock, Arkansas, opening up for a big band there called Jet 420, and we're going to play the whole record, I think, and it's going to be fun. We're looking forward to it. We're rehearsing it right now.
Have you seen him a lot since back in the day, or not really? The guys?
I've gone to see Rick. I haven't seen Steve or Paul, but I saw Tracy in Utah, and Dana, who's the singer of DFM, who they did a show, and I got up on stage and played a couple songs for the DFM stuff. And we're probably going to do something, and Metallic Blue, don't kill me, but there's probably going to be a show next year in Utah with the DFM lineup. We're working on that right now.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I stay in touch with those guys. I'm one of those kind of, I love these guys. I mean, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have a career. Like after New Haven broke up, I was just like, there was no final show or anything like that. I was just like, these are the new guys, and these are my blood brothers, and I love them all, man. Without them, T Lane wouldn't be SHIT.
Well, that's really. I didn't know there's going to be a DFM. That's one album I don't actually.
You heard it here first, kids.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, I had some more questions.
Sure.
Well, you were, like you said, you were there on the Sunset Strip at the time. I was going to see if you sent me a picture of Poison.
Yep.
What other stories you want to share?
Sure. I mean, Poison was the first band that we met out there after we shot our video for like MTV and all that stuff. And, quick story. I mean, we were staying at a hotel in West Hollywood, and, I see these guys walk in, they have big hair and stuff like that. And this is like September of '84. And, they're like, hey, I'm laying out by the pool, drinking a beer. And they're like, hey, are you in a band? I go, yeah, we just moved from Cleveland. They're like, oh, we're from Pittsburgh, and we're actually playing tonight. We're in a band called Poison. And they're like, come to the Troubadour and see us play. And then they rented a room so they could have a after party. So we became friends. They're like, hey, there's a apartment next to us that's for rent, not in the same building, but literally right next door off of Orange Drive. And we took it, and the spaghetti fights were epic, epic. And, I've known those guys forever. We don't play tennis every week, but I talked to Ricky, and, unfortunately I was ill when they came here to Ohio to play the stadium in Cleveland, and I couldn't go, but we still stay in touch. But they were great. And the other bands like Warrant, because I knew, like, I met Janie and Steve when they came out from Cleveland. I didn't know them, but our manager did. And I remember them coming to our apartment, and that's when I first met Janie and Steven. And just, Warrant's great friends. And through Pearl, I met a zillion people. I mean, like one that sticks out for me is Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers when he first got in the band. And, he just got into town. He's from Detroit, Michigan. And I was like, dude, we're playing the Roxy, come on out. Because I knew the Chili Peppers were around in LA forever. Anyways, he came, we had a great time. And he was like, Todd, I'd see him at the NAMM shows. He was like, man, why don't you ever come out and see us play? And I was like, well, I don't know. Anyway, so one time, like when they released, right before they released Californication, I just remember talking. I ran into him somewhere, and he was like, dude, you got to come out, man. He's like, pick a country, pick a city, whatever you want to do. And I did it. And it was, I got to see the world with those guys. And that's how I met another band that opened up for them, because I went to Australia and New Zealand, just like, just on vacation, just hanging with Chad and Papa Roach was the band that opened up for them. They're playing soccer stadiums. It was crazy. And I could tell you some stories, but, we'll have to decide if it's on or off the record, because I don't want to incriminate anybody. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, it just Pearl and just meeting, nice, solid band guys. I mean, it was the time of my life, and I don't regret anything, sir.
Yeah, I sing in bands. I haven't for the last couple of years, but
I'd like to hear your stuff.
Seems
you gotta, like off the record, just I want to hear it.
There seems like there's camaraderie between members of different bands all the time. You know.
Absolutely, and you're right. And there's out there from 87 to 91.
One sec.
There's hundreds of bands. You know the story.
But I got a phone call and it stopped recording right there.
Okay.
So let me just what the hell happened?
You got to do.
Okay, it's going again. We're good.
Okay.
So sorry.
No, it's fine. So we were talking about like the camaraderie of the bands and stuff like that. I mean, I would say, in my personal opinion, a lot of the bands were, just great guys. I mean, you want names, I'll give you names. But then there were some bands that were just, they would just buy their way in, and they weren't out there every night from Sunday to Sunday passing out flyers. And I didn't care. Me personally, I was like, look, if you can buy your way in and do that, I mean, I'd rather do it the hard way, because it builds character, in my opinion. And I was one of the only guys out there at the time that was unsigned, that was endorsed by Pearl Drums. And that's not an easy thing to do. But they didn't care if I was like the greatest drummer. They were like, dude, you have your expletive together, and you're a good ambassador for the product, and because I love the product. So my point is this, that out there, it was the Wild West, but we got it done, and that's why we were able to sell out shows in New Haven for the better part of 4 or 5 years easily.
How long?
And we love our.
Go ahead.
No, our fans were just great, and they would come time and time again. And I just remember, it could be a Tuesday night, it could be raining, and I'd get out there and flyer the parking lot of the LA Forum, and then go stand by an exit, and just, people would throw flyers in my face. I didn't care, but if I could get 10 people or 100 people out of, the 20,000 that are at the Forum, I did my job, but it was, I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I love the people, and I still stay in touch with a lot of them to this day.
That's one thing good about social media. It can actually makes it easier to stay in touch with people.
I don't have to stand out there on the street in the rain and pass out flyers and get them thrown in my face and have girls throw beers in my face because I didn't call them back. It's
Yeah, you hear stories about the flyer wars back in the day, and
we didn't worry about that. I mean, like, we were one of the bands that would go out, and like after we were done flyering, and with a bucket of glue and the stuff, and we blast the poles on La Brea and Highland. I don't know if you've ever been to Los Angeles or Hollywood.
I lived south of there, about 20 miles south. But
where?
It's called Placentia, California. It's near Anaheim.
I know exactly where that is.
Okay.
That's where I bought my first Corvette.
Oh, really?
I know exactly where that is.
But that was when I was a kid, so we moved out just as I was starting to get into music. So I didn't get to go see any of that stuff, but I wish I would have.
Right. It was a lot of fun, man. I mean, you could go out any night and see, because I met Adler through our rehearsal space. Tommy Lee, obviously, through Pearl, Tico Torres, all those guys, all the Pearl guys, Rob Affuso from Skid Row, Frankie Benali, I was just lucky that Pearl included me on all this stuff. But they were just like, look, you're out there on the streets, kid, and we appreciate it. And I didn't over ask for anything. And actually, here's a funny story for you. So when I got when Pearl's like, hey, we want to get you a new kit. And I was like, okay. They're like, we have this white kit that Dwayne Miller from Kiel just came back off the road with. And, come in and take a look at it. It's yours if you want it. And I did it. And Dwayne and I still talk to this day, and we laugh about it. I was like, dude, I still have the white kit. He was like, no, you don't. I was like, well, I got rid of it. But he great drummer, great guy. I could go on and on about the Pearl stuff. But
great band, too. Kiel was awesome.
Absolutely.
They're amazing.
Absolutely. And like Mark Ferrari, girls would be like, hey, are you Mark Ferrari? I was like, no. Because we looked alike. Back in the day, I look like Phil Collins now, but, they would be like, hey, are you Mark Ferrari or Tommy Lee? I'm like, neither, but I know him. Right on, Dean.
I think I might be tempted to lie. Depends on how hot the girl was.
I didn't. And then when Warrant started coming up, I'd get the Jerry Dixon stuff.
Okay.
But I just didn't have the big eyebrows like he did. But, I just remember, here's a funny story for you. Well, like when they got signed to Columbia, CBS, he was underage. And I think I was a year older than Jerry. And he was like, Todd, and Jerry and I are friends. And he was like, dude, do you have an extra ID? Because you're the only person I know that looks like me. And I actually did. And I gave him my extra ID. So when he went out on the road with Warren on the first tour, he could drink and stuff like that.
Really?
That's a true story. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Absolutely. Dixon. I have all these little...
You're contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
I know, but, hey. And they put my name on the record on DFSR.
Oh.
Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking. My name's on there. Oh. And they put New Haven on Cherry Pie. Along with a couple of other great bands. Absolutely.
Take a look, because I still love my physical copies. I still go in there.
Do you have them?
Do you
still have them?
I have thousands of CDs, way too many CDs.
Take a look. If you have the original copies, it's on there, Dean.
I'll take a look. But yeah, I used to all the time. You look for people. I'd even read the thank yous, see which bands you knew, see who you knew.
Exactly.
Maybe there's a ritual to opening a CD and clapping it in and reading what it was, and that's why I still always buy a CD if I can instead of the digital downloads. Right. Unless it's like $10 for the download and $40 for the disc, which I've come across too.
That's ridiculous. Whatever. These guys. That's why I'm glad I'm with the companies that we're with, F&A and Metallic Blue, because, the only thing, like vinyl today is, as I'm finding out, because this has been a whole learning process, and I just started this year. It's expensive. It's expensive.
The new vinyl is not cheap.
Exactly, and I appreciate all the people that appreciate it, and it's bewildering to me, but. I'm like you. I always love getting the CD or the album and like reading the credits, man, because that's a whole other conversation. But it is. That's how I know all these names, and like when I would be around these people, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so and so, that's so and so. You did this for this. I'm a student of history in music. I love it, and I appreciate it.
Yep. The best thing about these groups is meeting people that are obsessed as I am about some of this stuff.
I love it. And I can introduce you more if you need to.
So how long is it AZRO or AZRO?
AZRO.
Okay, you pronounce the letters. Okay.
It's the letters, yeah.
All right.
We were together probably, I don't know, maybe a year, if that. It wasn't really meant to be a band. It was just meant to be a soundtrack band, just so we could get Bikini 2 done.
Right.
But, things, we liked what we did. And like Janie Lane was like, hey, I'm doing the Policeman's Ball over here at this club. Why don't you guys play? He was like, because I ran it. He was like, what are you doing now, Todd? Because I went on tour with those guys, the Warrant guys. And believe me, geez. I don't want to, hey, well, and I can tell you, dude, Joey Allen and I have some great stories.
Do you?
The lead guitar player, Warrant. Joey's a buddy, and they're all buddies, man. Steven one night, he was like, dude, can I borrow some cymbals? I was like, we're playing the Troubadour. He's like, well, I'll come pick you up after you're done, and grab your cymbals. And we're doing like a super secret show at the Coconut Teaser on Sunset. I was like, fine. And the place was packed. I mean, I've known those guys forever, ever. And now that I have your cell, I'm going to send you some stuff, and you're gonna fall off that chair that you're sitting in. It's not going to be like that, but it's going to be pretty good. But yeah, just been lucky. But AZRO just barely a year, and music was changing. Guys are wearing flannel shirts and stuff like that. I was like, not that I was wearing like glam stuff. I was never like that, man. When I went on stage, I played in shorts and a t-shirt and had a couple of wristbands on, a little eyeliner. That's it. No makeup, none of that bullshit.
A little bit of hairspray.
What's that?
A little bit of hairspray.
Yeah. I'm putting that super hold. Look, I'm not going to deny that. The evidence is all there. On my page and on the CDs. It's all there. But, we just, with Kirk, the singer of New Haven, he just had a unique voice, right? He wasn't a screamer, and he wrote really good songs, in my opinion. And that's why we gained the respect of the other good bands that were out there. Because, we had keyboards, we didn't have two guitars. It was an exciting time. And that's why we've stood the test of time, I believe, because we weren't just like, I could make up a band name, but, we weren't just like, wearing like patent leather and all that nonsense. I mean, it's not nonsense, and to each his own, but, we were New Haven, man. We were different. And it just, one thing led to another. But circling back to AZRO, we did that. And, would we have liked to continue? Sure. But just time ran out, and then I had to move on to the next thing. And I felt bad, for the singer, Rick, but he just wasn't. If you listen to the DFM stuff versus the AZRO stuff, you'll see the difference. I mean, have you listened to that stuff?
I've got the AZRO. I've got New Haven on the way. It just hasn't arrived yet. But I've heard on, in the movie, and there's some samples online I've listened to. And then I just listened to a couple of songs of DFM that were available.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So AZRO is in my possession, and New Haven's on the way.
All right. I'll kick Steve in the butt. Make sure you get it. Make sure you get it.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just looking forward to hearing the whole album.
Excellent.
So
You'll like it.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's solid stuff. It's solid stuff. And like, my whole thing was like, look, I'm not the greatest drummer in the world. I know that. I didn't have to be. I play for the songs and what's required. All these guys out there, they're like octopuses and stuff like that. And you just like, what are you playing? I mean, good for them. Like, I didn't go to Berkeley. I'm self-taught, by Peter Criss, just listening to the Kiss records to start. And then, Saxon, Iron Maiden, Van Halen, Def Leppard. And I got some great stories about Def Leppard because, I met those guys in 1981 on the High and Dry tour. Because I loved Rick Allen, and we became friends. And it was just, it was a dream come true for me. But I was like you, I really love the music and the bands and stuff like that. I appreciated reading, who's Mutt Lange, who's Mike Shipley, who's who here, and just a lot of great stories. Here's one for you. So before New Haven, when I was in Haven, we when I had a fake ID, we'd go to the Rainbow, and we had friends that worked there, and Kevin Dubrow, lead singer of Quiet Riot, would always have parties at his house. So we're talking like 84, 85. So I just remember one of the waitresses at the Rainbow tapped me on the shoulder, said, "Hey, Kevin Dubrow's having a party. You want to go?" I was like, "Sure." So Kevin Dubrow had a beautiful house in like the Wilshire district of LA. So I go there, and, Frankie's there, God rest his soul. Obviously Kevin, Carlos is there, and Kevin's like nice. He's like, "Welcome, welcome, welcome. There's the bar. Go get a drink." So I go up to the bar, and the bartender, whoever was behind the bar, had his back turned, had long hair, and I was like, "Is this place open or what?" I made a wise ass guy. He turns around. It's Ainsley Dunbar from White's. I swear to God. And I was like, "Oh." you're Ainsley Dunbar. And he was like, what do you have, mate? I was like, whatever I ordered. All right. Vodka on the rocks with a squeeze of lemon. He's like, coming right up. I was like, holy, this is fucking surreal. It was great. It was great. And then, shenanigans ensued. But, I just picked his brain about Journey. And this is before Whitesnake, obviously. But it was amazing. Kevin couldn't have been sweeter. And Frankie, God love them. God love them both. God love them both.
You never hear anybody say a bad word about Frankie.
Hell no. He was great, man. He was great. I remember here. See, one thing leads to another with me. Okay, so there was like one of those John Bonham tribute drum things going on at the what used to be Gazzari's. That was called the Key Club on Sunset.
Heard of it.
Okay, and Vic Firth Drumsticks got me in. This great guy, Marco Ciccoli. He's not there anymore, but he's a badass mofo. So we were there, and I saw Frankie, and I was like, hey, Frankie. He was like, hey, how you doing, man? How you been? So I went outside to smoke a cigarette, and I see Kenny Richards from Autograph.
Yep.
And he was the Pearl guy, right? And, he wasn't an Autograph at the time, and he couldn't get in. And I was like, what the? So, I was like, you're coming with me. Because I met him at a bunch of Pearl events. We hung out, shenanigans, all that. So, I get his ass in. I was like, Frankie's in there. So I just remember I was like, Kenny, just follow me. And this is a true story. And I remember I saw where Frankie was sitting, and I was like, Frankie, someone here wants to say hello. And those guys came up together, and it was just the fact that I could like do that, after all those guys have done for me and just be there for me. I was just, I had like a tear in my eye. I was just like, those guys, if it wasn't for those guys, the rest of us after them wouldn't be SHIT. We wouldn't be shit. Even though New Haven never got the big deal, we got close, but politics got in the way. But that was a proud moment for me because these guys were my heroes. And, just to be on a level with them, it was great, Dean.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It'd be great, though. Even if you didn't make the big record deal, you guys have a lot of stories. And a lot of stories, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I have them. I got them. I mean, the other guys, they weren't as outgoing as me, let's say, but they worked hard, just as hard as I did. But,
we all have our talents, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the, as Night Ranger sang, that's the secret of my success. And I love Night Ranger, dude. I still talk to Jeff Watson occasionally. And I love those guys. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on.
I saw Night Ranger just maybe a year ago, and they're amazing.
Exactly.
They're still awesome. Exactly. I mean, I forgot who they're opening up for Brett Michaels, and there's a whole day of things. Firehouse, a bunch of bands.
For sure.
And yeah, everyone's like, man, Night Ranger really kind of.
They're a great band. I mean, God. I mean, we don't have to do this on the podcast, right. But yeah, I'm with you on that. So, after New Haven, AZRO, and DFM ran their course, I started failing upwards in the movie business. I worked for Miramax Films, of all places, for 12 years in like distribution and marketing and stuff like that. And that was fun as heck. I had a great boss. And then I relinked up with Daryl Swan, who was the guitar player in Haven, and he produced Macy Gray's first 3 records, and he had me come in and do studio stuff. So I did, a bunch of stuff with him. I played drums for this Swedish singer called Anna Celine, played the whole record, and then I played with a guy named Rich Ezra, and that was like 2005, and we like Universal was all over us, and Miles Copeland was going to manage the band. And unfortunately, I had some family tragedy, which kind of like took my legs out from under me personally. And, that was that. I had to look after my father and all kinds of family stuff like everybody does. But I was happy because I was like, man, this is my second shot. Or third or fourth, but and I didn't have to be Todd Lane. I could just be T Lane and just sit in the back and let the singer do all the work, and it was great. We had a lot of fun. We sold out a lot of shows, but unfortunately, family to me comes first. Even though my family is probably, they'd be pissed off at me that I didn't stick to it. But anyways,
that's what happens. Every time you think you got something figured out, life takes you somewhere else, and it just
correct.
Happens.
And I'm sure you know the drill too.
Yeah, you think you're in charge, and you quickly find out you're not.
Right, and that's just it's a life lesson, sure. But to me, I'm just grateful for people like you and all the people I've met on this wild journey through this past year. All the people that appreciate all the music, of all the stuff that I've done with the great players that I've had the privilege of playing with. I just couldn't be happier. And I look forward to Arkansas. And if we can pull off a New Haven show next year, which it probably will be, I'm going to do it. But other than that, as far as future plans go, no, just the guys are all over the place. It's too complicated. I'm just glad that the people are enjoying everything that we've put out thus far. I have 2 more releases coming out next year on Metallic Blue. One is going to be the original Haven stuff.
Okay.
Which is really cool.
Then.
Yep. And there's a video, which I'll send you. It's on YouTube. It's called Turn It Up. I'll send it to you. And there was another band in the mid-90s called Liquid Vision that was the singer of New Haven and the keyboard player of New Haven. And it's kind of like Hootie and the Blowfish or Gin Blossoms, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and people dig it if they like Kirk's voice, which they do, and he's a great songwriter, and so is Mike, the keyboard player. They'll like that. But the Haven stuff was where it all started. Now I'm excited to get that one out. I'm excited to get both of them out.
I can't wait to hear it.
You got it.
I would love to hang out with you one day and just kind of talk
Absolutely.
Stories. I think it'd be fun to just zoom in like this.
Anytime. Let's meet halfway.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
I'll hit you up on a text some night, and we'll see if we can get together and just
anytime. Dean,
I want to hear stories.
Anytime. And I really appreciate you doing this with me. And to the people that do listen to you, Dean's a good guy, man. And I've talked to a lot of, but Dean's a good guy.
Appreciate
Dean,
it.
I really appreciate your time and taking the time. And if you need anything else, just let me know.
I really appreciate it, and I'll get back to you, and I'll let you know when it airs. And thanks very, very much. I really do appreciate it. It's very cool.
My pleasure.
Very cool.
My pleasure. We'll talk soon, my friend.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks again.
You got it.
All right, later.
Cheers.
All right, so that was my conversation with Todd Lane. I want to thank him again for taking the time to do it. He was a great guy, and I had a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. That show that's coming up for AZRO is October 15th, 2022 at the Rev Room in Little Rock, Arkansas. If you're in the area, please check it out. Where can you find the music? AZRO is on your streaming services. AZRO and DFM are on Metallic Blue Records, and that New Haven disc you can find on FNA Records. Always like when people support the band and the labels that are still releasing this kind of music. It's great. Speaking of support, thanks to anybody who's subscribed recently. That subscribe button is there. I think it could be there, not sure. Thank you for hitting that button. It always really makes my day to see those numbers go up. I don't get a list of everybody that joins, but Mr. Cowboy Don, Ice Rock F1, Cricket Prince, and Paul Richard are a couple that have done it recently, and I appreciate that very much, as well as just anybody who takes the time to watch. It really does make my day. So I appreciate that. I want to mention one more thing. Bikini Car Wash Company 1 and 2, I'm going to be doing a video, an episode, a couple down the line probably, about the music that's in those movies, because there's some great unsigned rock bands, including New Haven and AZRO, and Shake City as well. So we'll be talking about that in a future episode. That's about it. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll catch you on the next episode.